Welcome to In the Line of Fire with Saraj, CEO, CXO, and a thought leadership series. This is about real leaders, real talks, real insights. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Manoj Gupta on the show. Manoj is based out of London. He has 30 years plus global leadership experience, driving technology, business transformation, strategy, operations, and large-scale enterprise growth across multinational organizations. Across the Americas, Europe, Asia, and international markets, leading business growth, the P&L, strategic transformation, and global mergers and acquisitions. Manoj has been 2 times the TEDx speaker, recognized internationally for his perspective on conscious leadership, human potential, and the future of work. So Manoj is the best-selling author of Consciouspreneur, and the Consciouspreneur is going to be the pivotal component of our today's conversation with Manoj. Manoj has a following of more than 300,000 people across different platforms who are connected through the Consciouspreneur movement. Manoj has also been the advisory to the government of India, contributing to national initiatives on industrial growth and digital and creative economy. He has been recognized as the pioneer of change in 2023 and Global Thought Leader 2025 for his contribution to leadership, transformation, and human development. He is the international keynote speaker, invited by Fortune 500 companies, global universities, and leading institutions, including Imperial College of London, IITs and IIMs in India, Infosys, and many multinational organizations and universities across the globe. Once again, welcome to the show In the Line of Fire with Saraj. I'm truly honored today to have Manoj Gupta as our guest on the show. Manoj, do you want to introduce briefly yourself? If I continue to speak, it'll go for hours.
You have given such a elaborated and a beautiful introduction, which I myself was, when I was hearing, is it me? So first of all, fantastic. I think you have covered everything.
We will get into the context setting a little bit. So looking back over your remarkable journey from India to leading global technology businesses, how would you describe that journey in your words?
See, if I talk about my 30 years of corporate journey by leading billion-dollar businesses, Saraj, I would say that the journey had been phenomenal, but in that journey, a realization happened, and the realization was that in the process of scaling the revenue and technology, that's what our focus was. We were depleting some of this human well-being. And when I was on the peak of my career, where, whatever success in terms of traditional aspect you can think of, in terms of the title, in terms of the rewards, in terms of international travel or freedom, there was some kind of inexplicable void, which I experienced. It was it was an experiential thing, so difficult to express in words. But in that realization, I also noticed around myself that there are people, brilliant leaders, brilliant business leaders who were burning candles from both sides. And then when I started going into a bit more deeper reflection, what I found was that in this definition of traditional success, what we are missing purpose, presence, and peace.
So if someone spends a day with you, it could be an emerging leader or a young talent. What are some leadership skills that they would observe?
One of the things I think which they may clearly observe is I have shifted from time management long back to presence management. So if I am with them, then I am with them. And if I'm not with them, then I'm not with them.
Throughout your journey from India to global leadership, what role has your family played in shaping the person and the leader you have become?
My family has played a very, very pivotal role as far as my life is concerned. They are my ground truth. They always have been. They are the one who taught me actually that, your title is what you do, not who you are. My parents were key in terms of instilling those fundamental values in me, Saraj. And my wife had been, a companion and anchor in all those turning points in terms of helping me in taking some critical decisions. So family has been of immense value as far as I'm concerned.
How have you managed the demand of a global career while staying connected to the people who matter most to you?
They said a bit before, over a period of time, I realized that time management doesn't work. So I shifted from time management to presence management. So when I am with my family or when I'm at dining table, then I am 100% there. There is never a phone call or there is never an email which goes into that. But when I'm at work or when I'm at board meeting, then I'm 100% there. So I have moved from time management to presence management. What I found is that quality of your presence matters a lot than the quantity of your hours, and that gives me a lot of solace the way I operate.
So was there a mentor or a teacher individual who fundamentally changed the way you think about leadership?
The ancient wisdom, the books which I spent my good 20 years, they were my mentors, teachers, guide, friend, companion, whatever you call it. But there is nothing better than them.
And the conscious leadership begins with self-awareness, but it also requires empathy. How has your understanding of human relationship evolved over the years?
Over the period of time, what I clearly felt that whatever problems in the corporate, in the family, or in the social circle, anything which happens is linked to human, and humans are at the core the consciousness. So if you are able to manage and align with the wavelength of those individuals, I think you are sorted, whether it's a social, personal, professional, or spiritual aspect. And that's something which I realized over a period of time. It was a journey which was a evolution journey. There were learnings, there were challenges, there were something where I fell flat on my face. And that's where, when I started Consciouspreneur, that's where, when I talk to leaders, individuals, I openly and without any mincing of my words, say that, look, I became learned at a later stage in my life. Those learning to go to you, for you to become wiser much earlier than myself.
If your family or close friends were asked to describe you, what do you think they would say?
A funny and a witty person.
Do you have any message for them? Because often I see with the kind of life we live in the corporate, people gradually start changing their perception about us with their travels and busy life, flying high, and nothing changes for the senior executives. But I think a lot of things change for many people in our circle of influence. Thoughts?
You are absolutely right. You have many roles, many faces. When you are performing, the way I would say is that you are an artist on a stage. Now the setup of stage becomes corporate, so you have to wear that particular role. When the setup becomes a father, then you becomes a pillow, for that matter. When the setup becomes the friend circle, you sometimes becomes guide, sometimes becomes seeker, sometimes becomes someone who is scolding without any mincing of words. Unfiltered conversation goes there. So yeah, means that's what I would say.
Sometimes I ask leaders, do you have a message for your family? And when they say that, okay, include it or just cut it, many times people feel good that it's a good opportunity to give a nice message to the family and friends.
As far as my friends and family are concerned, they know that I am a very funny and a witty person. Of course, I am a very private person. I'm not a reserved person, but I pick up my circle with a lot of diligence. But once I have picked up, then I'm free flow.
Another observation, this discussion is becoming very interesting. Often when I interact with senior executives, I find that their real self actually does not change at all. But the perception changes sometimes, right? For friends and family. I think that is some observation that I see and that often comes out.
You're so right. I give you an example. I was in a conference recently in US, and along with me was director of one of the IIMs. And we happened to become such a wonderful friend during that time. We were together for 3 days. And after 3 days, his statement was, Manojji, I've never laughed in my life this much. And you know what? tomorrow I'm taking my flight back to India, and I will again become that person who 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 will be very measured, not about smiling, not about laughing, but even in terms of putting any expressions, because every step of mine is being watched with so much of microscopic lens.
Yes.
So that's where it comes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being so candid and frank sharing about your personal life and about your family life. We will transition now to the organizational relationship in particular. Teams are digitally connected highly. There are a lot of virtual teams, and workplace is becoming more distributed, and AI is changing the roles. Amid all these transformation and new age technologies, people are connected more technologically but less emotionally. And many leaders are leading virtual teams across geos, across globe. So what does it really take to build a high performance teams in today's context? Any thoughts and lights on that for our leaders, Manoj?
Sure. See, I consider the combination of two parameters. One is, and this is something which I have practiced. One is high psychological safety and high business accountability. They needs to go hand in hand. If you have only high business accountability, what creates the situation or the fear mongering aspect or atmosphere of hiding the information. But if you only got the high psychological safety, then people often become complacent. But if you have combination of both, then people know that yes, they have done the mistake and they take ownership, learn from it and deliver better previous time. So that's where I have clearly seen that these both things, high psychological safety and high business accountability, should be hand in hand for you to have a very high performing team.
You have worked in high pressure environment and led P&L, had global responsibilities. Those experiences taught you about leading diverse global teams. In your experience, what are the biggest mistakes leaders make that unintentionally weaken their teams? They don't want to weaken their teams. No leader, in fact, wants to intentionally impact team negatively, but it does happen. Any thoughts?
One of the things which I have noticed as when I was a team member as well and growing up, and that became a lessons learned, is that hero complex. Some of the leaders who really want to poke their nose in each and every decision making, and that's where they becomes a bottleneck. So uh, this is unintentional, but over a period of time they have developed that habit, because when the organization scale up at a level when with it is small, you can still manage. But once the processes and once this revenue and the profitability grow up, you have to empower people. You cannot make you know all the infinite decisions in the finite time.
What do you think? Two, three competencies that are important for leaders contextually in today's world when it comes to leading teams? More from the perspective of leaders' personal self, which is the personal mastery.
So one is listening ability. You are expected to listen more than speak. The second is ability to keep your mouth shut rather than speak up when not required. That becomes very tough for the leaders, and I had to practice that a lot. And third is empower people and make them accountable.
So, building on to accountability, there is accountability with empathy without compromising on performance. How should leaders balance that? On the one hand, they sometimes get driven into the accountability and start pressing people for results and performance. And in the process, they just miss on empathy, but in the long run, they sometimes pay for that.
So that's where the combination of emotional intelligence and listening ability comes into play. There is the way the human construct is, right from child who is just 8 days to a person who is now 80 years on this planet. The deep desire is to get a recognition. So if you're finding someone not able to perform, you have to understand first the difference between their intent and action, listen to them, Empathizing is one aspect, but understand, and that's where the leadership comes into play. Are you able to see the unseen? Are you able to hear the unsaid? And then make a decision.
That is fantastic. If I may say, or the insights definitely tell us that the personal excellence and leaders' ability to maintain healthy relationship with the team are two critical components of success, and these will remain forever. It will never supersede any technology. So we now get into the next segment, which is the signature segment, I would say, about the consciouspreneur, how that is defining leadership in the age of AI. And I personally strongly believe that we as human beings have been challenged by the technology and the technological transformation. And recently I was doing a study and I was thinking, hey, AI would never replace courage. AI would never replace motivation. AI will never replace empathy. AI would never replace many things that are important for individual and organizational success. So, throughout the history, every transformative leader has introduced an idea that challenged the conventional thinking. Some redefined the science, some redefined the business, some redefined the leadership. Your work through Consciouspreneur challenges one of the biggest assumptions of modern success, that professional achievement alone does not lead to the fulfillment. Your argument on that?
So, absolutely. First of all, professional achievement alone, it's like once you have four paradigms of your life: professional life, social life, spiritual life, and personal life. The professional and social life is your outer world, right? And your personal and spiritual life is your inner world, right? So the way the traditional way of success has been defined in society, in the process of looking good or great in your outer world, you compromise a lot to your inner world. And that's where the consciouspreneur initiative or thinking came from, where I said, this is not sustainable, especially in this age of AI. See, if you look at the way the spirituality and materialism, they have been looked as mutually exclusive. I say no, they are not mutually exclusive, they are converging. That's where I bring the consciouspreneur aspects, Saraj. See, science was created to develop materialism in this world. Whatever we have, like you and I'm talking at this point of time, was unthinkable 20 years back. The kind of device we hold in our hands today, for our great grandfathers, we might be appearing like God, right? So the kind of technological innovation and advancement which has happened has given us immense capability of effectiveness and efficiency. But as far as our inner world is concerned, spirituality or religion, whatever comes into play, for science or for material world, technology was created as a vehicle for developing science. And for religion or for developing spirituality, religion was created as a vehicle to develop spirituality. Spirituality is all about stability of mind, the way I say. Right? Now, what has happened is one branch followed the very structured, methodical route, and we see where we are in last couple of 100 years post-industrial revolution. But when it comes to the other side, spiritual side, we did not have any inventors, innovators, scientists to work on this. There were Vedic wisdom, there were other religious texts which were available, but they were somewhere kept in the libraries or in the bookshelves. What has resulted into it, we at this point of time, if you look at very interesting thing, today we are about 8 billion people on the planet, right? About 100 years back, we were about 2.5 billion people, or about 2 billion people. Further, before 100 years, we were about 800 million people. So in 200 years, we have grown from 800 million to 8 billion. Now the way the common dynamics is, when you are with people, then you feel like alive. You are charged up, you are having energy, you are having fun. Now we have got 10x, right? Population. But at the same time, the paradox is We are in a zone where this is the biggest time of the loneliness on this planet. So that's where the conscious thinking or consciousness, especially in this age of AI, as I said, where all those skills which you were taking a lot of pride will be outsourced to AI. Then you will have a lot of quality time available. And when you have a lot of quality time available, you have to be more intentional. It cannot be reactive. It has to be more thinking through, awareness, clarity, intentionality. That's where the most important currency in coming days will be the humanity. Those things which you spoke about in terms of problem solving, critical thinking, intuition, wisdom, empathy, ethical reasoning, these are some of those skills which AI will never be able to copy. And unless and until you have built your competency as a human around these, you will become redundant and you will find yourself on a negative foot very, very soon, actually.
Exactly. AI is not the replacement of human intelligence in any way. And we are sometimes misunderstanding because we also feel that it is a threat. But the world will continue to grow. So let's go back to the origin of Consciouspreneur. What was the initial study? How did he put it together? And the birth of Consciouspreneur happened.
Sure. See, I had been in the business world for a good period of time, so had understood all the nuts and bolts and the crux, how the business works, right from, you talk about strategy, business, sales, operations, HR, finance, and so on and so forth, and how the B schools function in terms of developing those competencies. So I understood that very well. When I was learning or studying those ancient wisdom or Vedic science, what I found was this was something which was to develop. These were all created to develop that spiritual or stable mindset for you to be grounded, but at the same time excel in your field. Consciouspreneur was, how do I bring the spirituality and science on a same tandem or in the same domain? Because leadership is, we spoke a bit before, your relationship outside in the world in terms of operating depends upon how you have been in your immediate circle, you know with the relationship. Similarly, in this age, especially in this age of AI, where you are expected to make more of intentional and ethical decision, your outer world and inner world needs to be in complete convergence and congruence. And for that, you have to make sure that your spiritual mind and your material mind works in tandem very beautifully, because that's where the leadership comes into play. The leadership is not going to be all about competency as we go forward. Leadership will be all about the fusion of competency with character, and character is all internal or inside out, competency is all outside in, and that.
So if you have to explain the Consciouspreneur to the CEOs and tell them briefly how it can help them and how eventually it can help the organization, what would be your thought on that?
Consciouspreneur will help you in terms of your revenue growth, in terms of your profitability improvement, in terms of your employee net promoter score going up, and in terms of your customer satisfaction score going up. So when I speak to the CEO, these are all hard facts, nothing which is we are talking about in terms of the ambiguity or the statement. You have to focus on top line, you have to focus on bottom line, you have to focus on your customers, and you have to focus on your employees. And Consciouspreneur actually looks at all the four stakeholders and takes it in a direction where CEOs want to move.
If somebody has to deploy Consciouspreneur as an organizational change initiative or as an organizational culture initiative or building more consciousness within the organization, a quick thought on that.
We do a as is and the to be. And while doing the as is and to be, the more important aspect is the CEO and his leadership or her leadership team who is going behind this or wants to go behind this, how prepared they are in terms of their mindset, not just the words, because the speeches needs to be aligned with the actions.
So, are you saying in a way that there's an entire methodology to deploy consciouspreneurship in the organization as a part of the culture initiative? And if yes, how?
Well, in terms of how in this particular conversation, maybe
Yeah.
two
Maybe a high level I'm just trying to understand if this is practically deployed in to the organization or for personal leadership. That's what my point is. In case any CEOs want to contact you, get in touch with you to explore the conscious preneurship for the benefit of their employees or culture, what would be your message for them?
So yeah, we clearly focus on the area which organization want to focus on. For example, attrition becomes a very big issue, right? Or employee not net promoter score. So there is a framework around that. When you are talking of customer satisfaction to go high, your customer churn rate to come down, there is a framework around that. When you are talking of improving the bottom line and at the same time maintaining the top line, then there is a framework around that. And if you're looking for holistic, then this is a transformation initiative across many spectrums, and that's where the conversation and approach goes into that direction as well.
So out of your extensive experience working with organizations for many, many years and deploying conscious preneurship, uh, what are some of the observations when you feel that the understanding of the self within the organization becomes really very, very important? And that's when I mean, it matters to deploy something like conscious preneurship.
Yeah, we are not talking of just a macro level view. We look at the inner operating system of the leaders and of the organization. What kind of values and how those values are being linked to your operating model. So once we have understood that, then we get into a zone of defining either a phase wise plan, and in there is clear ETVX with respect to what is your responsibility, what is my team's responsibility, and how we will function as we move along.
If you have to give a message to a CEO or CXO or any emerging leader in terms of how they could look into their consciousness to be more effective and successful than they are, what would some of thoughts be for them?
I would say that, look, the biggest challenge today is all about the leadership fatigue and internal friction. So as a CEO, it is your prime responsibility to look at what kind of leadership you are bringing in, and is there a silo, or is there something which is converging, right from top to bottom and bottom to top. Because you do not lose millions of dollars, to the competition. You actually lose when you work in silos, when you are a misaligned team, and when your top performers are churning out. So I think that is something which you need to look at.
Your message for an individual leader, emerging leader.
Work on your roots very, very strongly before you become obsessed with the fruits.
Okay, profound. So you mentioned about the burnout, which has become a global leadership challenge. How can consciouspreneur help people get out of this burnout and live a happy life? End of the day, the objective and goal of anyone to be in a job is to live a happy life, live a fulfilled life, live a good family life. So what would be your suggestions or advice to for people to stay away from the burnout or burn the burnout?
So the burnout, the way I say it, is a misconception in today's world that burnout happens when you work for long hours or extra hours. No, actually, burnout happens when you're whatever you are working as an outer productivity or skill, etc., does not align with your internal value system, or when you are not in alignment with your inner system. So that's where the burnout happens, not with the extra working hours. The second misnomer which is there at this point of time is work life balance. When we talk about as consciouspreneur, we do not talk about work life balance, we talk about work life integration. There may be days where you are expected to be at work or office for 80% of your time, and 20% time is required or given to the family. But there will be days where you will have 80% of time available for the family. So don't confuse yourself with the binary aspect of 50-50. You have to integrate it. And once you start integrating, once you start understanding the reason of burnout, then things flow.
So, what should leaders start doing now?
In ancient wisdom, we all would have heard the word Nishkam Karma. Nishkam Karma is like focus on your work without being anxious about the fruits. And people say this is an abstract philosophy. The same thing neuroscience talks about in a different language, saying that please operate from your prefrontal cortex and do not allow your amygdala to hijack, your performance. What exactly is this? It's simply saying focus on your performance, because amygdala is the alarm, right, which we all know into the human neurosystem. So where I go is, it is the convergence. You need to understand and pick up the language and start interpreting in the right way, and you will find your way. You will find your flow state actually.
So, Manoj, you mentioned the origin of this, and it is deep rooted in the Vedic knowledge. Do you want to share some of your learnings that help you build consciouspreneur?
One thing which I learned is like, for finding peace, you don't need to change the place. You actually need to change your perspective. That's one thing which I really learned.
Interesting, profound.
The second thing which I learned, that you only have control on your actions, not on your results. But we all know about it intellectually, but to bring that into practice is something which these manuals teach you. And in due course, once you start practicing, you find a very profound results.
Do you want to quote anything from the scriptures?
Chapter 2, for example, verse 47, which clearly talks about, which I spoke a bit before, that Nishkam Karma, or focus on your activities, Karmanyevadikaraste. Focus on.
Place to. Sorry, I interrupted because I knew that, so I immediately. But you have to do that again, please, for me.
So, chapter 2, verse 47, which beautifully talks about Nishkama Karma in the language which is Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. That's something, as I spoke a bit before, neuroscience clearly speaks that focus on your prefrontal cortex and do not allow amygdala, anxiety to hijack what you're doing. The other one which I also love really is chapter 18, verse 37 and 38, which talks about that, look, something which feels like nectar immediately actually turns out to be the poison, and something which feels like poison in the beginning turns out to be nectar at the end. Now you will say, what exactly you're talking, right?
I understand. Beautiful.
So anything which is sensual pleasure will give you a joy instantly, but over a period of time you will find that you are not drinking because you are enjoying the day you enjoyed on the day one. After year 1 or year 2, you are drinking because you cannot stay without it. But opposite to that, you will find a huge resistance in your system when you have to train yourself for running or going to gym or to start a new course or new skill. But over a period of time, you will find that things have become extremely beautiful and at ease. So that's where verse number 37 and 38 beautifully talks out. Thing is, Saraj, the way it was written thousands of years back in a language which was understood to people at that point of time. And over a period of time, and especially post-industrial revolution, we all have forgotten to understand that language. And it took 8 years, continuous 8 years, for me to understand how this language needs to be decoded in the language which we human can understand. And then there was no looking back.
I can see that book. Do you want to show that book to us?
The book is over here. And I would love everyone to read, because this is my deep 20 years of reflection. First of all, globally on all platforms. In India as well, there's a publisher who has got the rights. You can find anywhere in the major cities or the airports. My second says.
These are amazing discussions. So, and I always say, when it comes to 5-dimensional leadership, I feel the first important thing is to lead yourself. How you lead yourself is important. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead relationships. And if you can't lead relationship, you can't lead your team. If you can't lead your team well, you can't lead your business well. If you can't lead your business well, you cannot lead your organization well. So leadership is a 5-dimensional spectrum in my view. And today this discussion with Manoj is heavily focused on the personal mastery, which is the challenge that everyone accepts today. Thank you so much, Manojji, for sharing those great insights. And I would urge audience to go through that book and purchase and keep it in the library. Personal mastery is what matters. Today, I can think of buying an aeroplane to be happy, or I have the option to feel happy from within. I don't need an aeroplane for that. For that matter, I could be more conscious of myself. I could choose gratitude rather than feeling of the have not and still be happy. It's a choice. That's how personal mastery is. That comes from the positive psychology, that comes from the emotional intelligence, that comes from every source of information that is available. And so congratulations, Manoji, for this great discovery. I hope this goes worldwide everywhere. And I would definitely in sometimes like to have you and me speak and do a Hindi show on this as well. This is a global show, so that's why we're doing it in English so that it reaches, everywhere. Thank you so much. So we get through this segment and we'll make our discussions a little light. Manoj, if you want to pick up some water or anything, we'll get into the rapid fire now. And I don't want to steal that idea that you have, please.
One of the things which comes to my mind, this particular ideology or this particular thought process is now getting into universities. This is becoming a full 2 years MBA course in one of the large universities in India. There has been the admission processes and everything is started this year. Huge uptick on this direction. This is also becoming a credit course into IIMs. So and there is a huge interest among the learners in this direction. So what I clearly see is that bringing these together, the spirituality science into leadership is something which is extremely fulfilling for me personally, and I clearly see an uptake and clearly see people resonating about it.
Profound, excellent, and I would love to meet you when you are in India the next time, and probably we'll have some more chit chat and create another show in Hindi as well. We're making things lighter for you and for us now. Do you want to grab some water, anything before we get you into the fire?
I'm good with my coffee. Yeah.
So let's begin the rapid fire. You will have less choice, less time, no stop, one after another. We will be firing questions on you, and welcome to In the Line of Fire. You have shared profound insights throughout the conversation, and now let's shift the gears. I'm going to ask you a series of short questions. There are no right or wrong answers for that matter, just your first instinct. So, ready?
Sure.
Most organizations underestimate the importance of culture.
True.
Another one, and I would say a word, you say me a word. Consciousness,
Awareness,
happiness,
contentment,
purpose,
fulfillment.
Fantastic. We're getting into the next one. And there's a fill in the blanks for you. The future belongs to the leader
who brings awareness, clarity, and consciousness while they operate.
The conscious leadership begins with
Awareness readily available at your disposal.
And the true success is
Being dynamic as well as joyful.
binary, profit or purpose,
Purpose, no doubt.
logic, intuition,
Intuition.
competence or character.
If I have to pick up, then undoubtedly character.
Looking ahead, one leadership capability that will define the next decade.
Focusing on building conscious leadership pipeline.
One leadership practice that will become almost essential in today's world.
Become aware, reflect, contemplate.
The future will belong to the people who
are consciousness.
Fantastic. So we're getting into the next segment, Manoj. Thank you for those quick insights. We are getting into now the organizational mastery at kind of leaders, CEOs, CXOs, thought leadership. In your view, what distinguishes a true future-ready organization from one that is simply reacting to the change.
The organization with system agility, a human centric culture, and bringing that psychological safety as well as business accountability hand in hand are the organizations which are future ready and at the same time recession proof, competition proof, whatever you talk about.
One last question in the organizational mastery is, you are addressing a board. What would be your big message to them?
Focus on ensuring bringing the right leadership on board, whether it takes extra time rather than making any quick decisions.
What is your definition of that right leadership?
Let me repeat, do enough due diligence on hiring the leaders, not in just terms of competency, but on character as well. That's going to be the real ROI.
I've had this discussion often, and in fact, after a few of my conversations, people from from some parts of the world wrote me, why don't you ask them about the toxic leadership? And I think you're indicating already in that directions. What's your advice to the CEO if they are being pressed by a toxic leader because of his or her performance and not caring about the character, because that character is impacting the organizational well-being?
That's where the true leadership from inside comes in. Hey, is it going against my value system? And that's where, are you conscious? That's where, when you're conscious, then you will be aware. When you will be aware, you will take a pause and look at the scenario from the place of clarity rather than place of ego, and evaluate it from the choices which are the choices of larger picture rather than that zoom in kind of it. So when I talk about the CEOs, they are the people who should possess the capability of zooming in and zooming out extremely fast, and in most of the cases I've seen them. So even there is someone who is toxic at the board or someone toxic at the investment level, if you follow this, you are good.
So that was very profound and great insights, Manoj. Now we're shifting the gear to the young talent segment. What are some of your thoughts for the young talent, people in schools and colleges, and those who are even entering the organizations as fresher? What do you think they should do to be more at peace?
So one is, do not try to compete with AI. It's here now. Okay? So do not try to compete with AI when it comes to memory or some computation and so on and so forth. Focus on developing your human skills, because going forward, humanity actually will be premium. And the skills like, and I'm giving some names to those youngsters, skills like empathy, skills like problem solving, critical thinking, complex negotiations, self-awareness are those which will make you winner among huge crowds. So if you to focus on these, make AI good use as your companion, but not as your competitor.
Message for school students?
Don't bother about AI when it comes to homework. Make sure you keep your neural network as trained hard as possible, because most of the people at this point of time are confused between gym and job when it comes to AI. See, job is for you to be done by somebody else or outsource, but gym is something which you have to do it, and in that you have to sweat, but that's at the physical level. I am telling to all the youngsters in school, make sure your mental gym is not somewhere outsourced to AI.
Any big last message for anyone, for that matter, from you, from your thought leadership, Manojji?
Focus on your roots before you become obsessed with your fruits, because your job title, your strategy, your finances, your big wealth, these are all fruits, but your consciousness is actually, inner consciousness is your root. So if you focus on that, and believe me, it took time for me to learn and understand that, but if you focus on that, then the natural growth, sustainable growth will follow without any hiccups or impediments.
Excellent insight. What is for you over the next few years?
Consciouspreneur. So for me, I really want to address the dichotomy, which is that mind and money are not mind and money, it is mind versus money kind of thing. So I want to address this. No. Mind and money are the two sides of the same coin. And for you who is working towards building a $1 billion business, you're all you're also entitled for tranquility. You are also entitled for enjoying, on a side of lake or somewhere and catch the fish. So it's not either or. It's the combination of both.
This was deep discussions on personal mastery, and especially in context of the discovery of the conscious entrepreneurship. And we have the leader, Manoj ji. Thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate. If people want to reach out to you, the organizations or leaders or anyone, what is the way?
First of all, Saraj, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. If anyone wants to reach out, there are platforms which is manojgupta.com and consciouspreneur.net. Either of them. In addition to that, I'm present on social media or any of the digital world. So Google it, be it Consciouspreneur or myself, you will find all the connects and contact details.
Thank you, viewers and audience, for joining in the Line of Fire with Saraj, a CEO, CXO, and Thought Leadership series. And we had Manoj Gupta from London, a thought leader who has really contributed 3 decades of his time and spent so much of time discovering the consciouspreneur. And his books are available, and he is available, and his services are available to all of you. I would like to thank Manoj ji on behalf of the audience. I am sure this is going to be helpful for everyone. This show will be available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, and Amazon Music. And we call it the Real Leaders, Real Conversations, and Real Insights, and Real Impact. Keep learning, keep leading, keep balancing, and keep making the difference. And do take good care of yourself, whether you are a CEO or CXO, thought leaders, emerging leaders, or young talent. The first important thing is how you lead yourself effectively, and that is what we call the self-mastery. And we had today's discussion primarily on the self-mastery. Truly appreciate your time, Manoj. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this discussion.
Thank you for having me. I truly enjoyed the discussion, Saraj. Thank you for having me.